Shockingly, the paranormal world was shaken to its core, as Dan Rivera, the man known as the real-life guardian of the Annabelle doll, was found dead in his hotel room under sudden and mysterious circumstances. The news broke like a thunderclap on July 13, 2025, sending waves of disbelief through the community of ghost hunters, spiritualists, and horror fans alike. Rivera, just 54 years old, was in the middle of his national Devils on the Run tour when tragedy struck in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a city steeped in death and supernatural legend. According to emergency responders, Rivera was discovered unresponsive and alone in his room early that morning, with attempts at CPR ultimately failing to revive him. The chilling twist? He was on tour with one of the most notoriously haunted objects on Earth, Annabelle. The doll, locked behind glass, blessed regularly by clergy, and tied to a string of alleged deaths and possessions, had long been a central figure in Rivera's public life. And now, as authorities await the results of an autopsy, a grim question hangs in the air. Did something follow him? Before his death, Rivera was considered the face of modern paranormal investigation. A former U.S. Army veteran who transitioned from military service into supernatural research, he joined the New England Society for Psychic Research, NESPR, in 2011 and quickly rose to prominence under the mentorship of Lorraine Warren herself. For over a decade, he toured haunted hotspots, gave lectures, and appeared in media to advocate for responsible, ethical exploration of the unknown. His commanding presence and calm voice made him a respected figure, not only within NESPR, but also among skeptics who saw him as balanced and methodical in a field known for sensationalism. Rivera wasn't chasing thrills. He was documenting evidence, protecting people, and trying to bring legitimacy to a realm most dismiss as fantasy. But perhaps what made him most iconic was his role as the custodian of the real Annabelle, a position he never took lightly. Beyond the documentaries, Rivera appeared on popular television series like Most Haunted Places and collaborated on streaming hits like Netflix's 28 Days Haunted, earning a reputation for his unnerving calm even when confronted with objects or environments said to be cursed. Yet even with fame, Rivera remained grounded. He was a devoted husband to his wife Sarah and a father to 4 children. His death has sparked an outpouring of grief and speculation, with fans theorizing everything from natural causes to dark forces at play. The eerie timing of his death, while on tour with the Annabelle doll, has only fueled the fire. Without warning, one of the most trusted voices in the paranormal world has gone silent. Dan Rivera wasn't just a ghost hunter. He was a spiritual protector, a skeptic's believer, and a storyteller grounded in truth. His sudden departure has left an unfillable void, and for many, a terrifying question. What really happened that night in Gettysburg? Inevitably, the mystery surrounding Dan Rivera's death intensified as conflicting narratives emerged, both from official sources and the public's wild imagination. Initial reports from the Gettysburg County Coroner's Office stated that there were no signs of foul play, yet declined to issue a preliminary cause of death. That silence triggered a storm. Within hours, paranormal forums, Reddit threads, TikTok comment sections, and even local news sites were flooded with theories. Some users pointed to Rivera's grueling tour schedule, citing fatigue, stress, and underlying health conditions as possible factors. Others weren't convinced. "You don't just drop dead while traveling with Annabelle," wrote one viral post on X, gaining over 500,000 impressions in just 12 hours. For many, Rivera's death wasn't just tragic. It was a possible confirmation of everything he warned the public about for over a decade. The darkness he studied may have finally claimed him. Meanwhile, NESPR, the organization founded by Ed and Lorraine Warren and now carried on by their descendants, released a cautious but heartfelt statement. They confirmed Rivera had been in good spirits just hours before his death, speaking at a sold-out lecture in a packed historical venue. Attendees noted nothing unusual until the next morning, when Rivera failed to appear for a scheduled private seance. The tour team assumed he overslept, until hotel staff performed a wellness check and discovered the unresponsive investigator. Social media posts from that day painted a disturbing picture. The lights in his hotel room were flickering unusually. His phone was locked and untouched on the nightstand. And, according to one unnamed source, the protective crucifix Rivera kept beside Annabelle's case had mysteriously fallen to the floor. That last detail was never confirmed by NESPR, but leaked through someone close to the investigation. Worse, a growing number of Rivera's colleagues began publicly questioning how safe it had ever been to move the Annabelle doll from her original locked cabinet at the Warren Occult Museum. Traditionally kept sealed under blessed glass and guarded with strict protocols, the doll had recently become the centerpiece of the Devils on the Run tour, a decision that had drawn controversy even before Rivera's death. Critics argued it was a dangerous marketing stunt that disrespected the very nature of the artifact. Annabelle was never supposed to travel, said one former NESPR intern in an anonymous podcast interview. The Warrens never would have agreed to this. Dan knew the risk. Whether those warnings were superstition or truth no longer felt like a game. Someone respected, trained, and deeply spiritual had died while carrying out the very work that warned against inviting evil into the physical world. Simultaneously, Rivera's family was grappling not only with personal loss, but with a barrage of media scrutiny. His wife Sarah reportedly refused interviews and was seen leaving their Connecticut home flanked by security. Tributes poured in from celebrities, clergy, and fellow investigators. But so did the tabloid headlines. Did Annabelle kill Dan Rivera? Possessed doll claims new victim? Real-life conjuring turns fatal. Whether viewed as outrageous or chillingly plausible, one thing was clear. Dan Rivera's death had transformed into something much bigger than tragedy. It was now a battleground between science, faith, and fear. Suddenly, the narrative surrounding Dan Rivera's death reached a fever pitch, spiraling beyond the boundaries of ghost-hunting communities and into mainstream discourse. Major outlets like CNN, the New York Times, and BBC began covering the story, not just as the passing of a paranormal figure, but as a cultural phenomenon. What started as a tragic obituary had morphed into a nationwide obsession with the question, did Dan Rivera's death signify something supernatural? Podcasts dedicated entire episodes to unpacking his final moments. Spiritual influencers posted long-form TikToks theorizing dark energy transfers, and YouTubers began dissecting Rivera's last public appearances, frame by frame. Footage from his Gettysburg lecture the night before his death was studied intensely, with one clip going viral. A sudden static distortion in the microphone as Rivera spoke about demonic resistance, while holding a rosary. Though technical explanations were offered, many weren't interested in rationality. They were convinced something ancient had awakened. Meanwhile, Rivera's body was returned to Connecticut under tight control, and the Annabelle doll, now the center of a media firestorm, was rushed back to Nesper's headquarters under the supervision of multiple priests. Photographs surfaced showing the doll's protective case reinforced with new layers of glass and metal, while a rotating team of clergy was reportedly blessing the object hourly. Nesper declined to comment on whether any unusual activity had been detected, but insiders hinted at strange electrical disruptions and unexplained cold spots within the museum's storage wing. For those in the know, this wasn't coincidence. It was escalation. Rivera had warned in interviews that spiritual entities could retaliate if boundaries were breached. Now, his death was interpreted as proof of that retaliation. Elsewhere, a previously recorded podcast episode featuring Rivera aired posthumously, adding fuel to the fire. In it, he discussed how his connection to Annabelle had become more intense in recent months. He described waking up at 3 a.m. nightly, hearing whispers in languages he didn't recognize, and how the doll's case seemed to resist being locked. "There's something stirring," he said, voice low and steady. "It's waiting for the right moment." The episode, uploaded 2 days after his death, garnered over 10 million views within 48 hours and was clipped endlessly across social media. To believers, it wasn't just eerie, it was prophetic. At the same time, paranormal researchers and skeptics clashed in public forums and cable news debates. Scientists pointed to stress-induced cardiac arrest or undiagnosed health issues, while spiritualists claimed Rivera had opened a door that couldn't be shut. The debate even reached Capitol Hill briefly, when a fringe congressman cited Rivera's death while proposing a bill to regulate public exhibitions of allegedly haunted objects. The moment was surreal, as images of a possessed Raggedy doll appeared on C-SPAN beneath banners reading "Federal Oversight of Occult Artifacts." Rivera, in death, had inadvertently sparked the country's most bizarre cultural moment in years. Dan Rivera had become more than a man. He had become a symbol of belief, of fear, of the thin veil that separates this world from whatever lies beyond. And at the center of it all sat Annabelle, unmoving, unreadable, and waiting. Some called it hysteria, others called it proof, but no one could look away. Ultimately, Rivera's story became less about Annabelle and more about us, how we process what we don't understand, and how we elevate those who choose to face the abyss so the rest of us don't have to. Whether one believes his death was the result of supernatural retaliation, exhaustion, or simple tragedy, the emotional weight remains the same. Dan Rivera embodied the line between myth and man, faith and fact, mystery and meaning. His voice, once steady in the face of chaos, may be gone, but the questions he raised still echo in the minds of millions. Not every haunting ends with a scream. Sometimes it ends with silence. And in that silence, we're left to wonder, did we lose a man to death? Or to something we were never meant to understand?